Whose choice was Baker Mayfield? Was that Dorsey? Hue Jackson didn't want him, or he said that Todd Haley poisoned the team and Baker Mayfield against him? I mean, what happened earlier this year, best you can tell, Seth?
Okay, so Baker was basically a unanimous choice. I mean, people were a little worried about his height, but it was essentially a unanimous choice. And I might be told that during the Sashi Brown era, some of the research that they were doing actually had Baker number one. So Baker goes number one, and then Hard Knocks happens. And I mean, it put the Browns' issues on full display in front of everyone to watch and enjoy and consume. And then you see the team on the field this year. It was a really odd team because in one sense, they were going to overtime almost half of their games during the first part of the season. So they were playing hard for Hue. And yet you saw Hue talking about how he had to take more control of the offense with Haley. Baker wasn't playing well. Obviously he's a rookie, so it's going to take some time, but it wasn't like this looked like they had it together. And so then they lose to the Steelers. The Monday after the game, John Dorsey and owner Jimmy Haslam come into Hue Jackson's office and they tell him they're going to go in a different direction. Hue was upset about this. He felt like that he had ridden the team out during these tough years when they were going to lose and everyone knew they were going to lose. And so he was shocked and he asked why. And John Dorsey said, because the team has quit on you. And that, I'm told, very much upset Hue because, again, they had gone to overtime and were very close to having a really good record at that point. And he told them to get the F out of his office.
Yeah, that'll get you fired. So here's the thing I'm wondering, though, okay? Because from what we found out on this show, we had the broadcaster Iron Eagle on the show a few weeks ago, and he did that last Steelers-Browns game. And I asked him about the situation that he saw in Cleveland playing out. And he told a story about him and Dan Fouts going into a pre-broadcast meeting with the head coach, Hue Jackson, and Hall of Famer Dan Fouts asked Hue, how come you're not running more Oklahoma-type plays for Baker Mayfield? Why aren't you doing more of that? To which Hue Jackson said, I agree. And they were just kind of looking at each other going, what sort of answer is that from the head coach of a team? So from your reporting, what do you think was happening there with him and Haley and Baker? And clearly something was dysfunctional that became more functional with, of all people, as you point out in your piece, Greg Williams. So what do you think, Seth?
So Haslam wanted Hue Jackson to not just be a sort of one of those head coaches that's like a glorified play caller. He wanted him to be a leader and be more of a CEO. So they bring in Todd Haley, which Hue Jackson was on board with. And then they bring in Todd Haley and give him autonomy over the offense. And when the offense wasn't playing well, I'm told that Hue wanted to assert some control over the offense, at which Haley did not take well to. And so you had this weird situation where Hue Jackson's the head coach of the team. He feels like he can't assert control over his own offense. You have Todd Haley, who's basically doing whatever he wants because he was given that option to do so. And then, after all of this, it's clearly not working, and it's starting to spill out into the public, and they're arguing in Hue Jackson's office, and then both of them end up getting fired in the same day. And so I don't think the offense dramatically changed after Todd Haley was gone. I think that, Freddie Kitchens admitted as much at his press conference that, it's the same plays. They were doing the same things. I think that, that team definitely just needed a new dose of energy and leadership. And I think that Greg Williams, to his credit, and Freddie Kitchens were able to provide it.
So then what based on your discussions of everyone either on the record or whatever you could share as background with us here, Seth, from what you gleaned from all the people, the animus between Baker Mayfield and Hue Jackson would be what? Okay, I mean, where did that all come from? That played out.
Well, I think Baker was accurate when he said, I think he called him a fake on Instagram, and I think that's what he saw. I'm not saying it's totally legitimate, but I think that there was a sense in the building, and again, this goes back to the power structures and the reporting structures that the owner sets up, that Hue realized that he felt like that the Browns and their direction, especially under Sashi Brown, were way worse than what he thought. There's a lot of disputing about that, but that's how Hue felt. And so I think that when you have the owner being the tiebreaker, you have a lot of fighting, and a lot of your self-survival starts to kick in. And so I think that Hue realized that he was in a very difficult situation, and I think that he fought to keep his job as best he could, and in the process probably alienated some people in the building.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.